Hey, this is Kenny back with another video. Today we will be talking about electrical and light switches. A customer in the DIY home improvement projects and advice Facebook group made a post regarding the light switches that he recently swapped out with new switches. And after swapping out the new switches, they did not work. That being said, let's get started. As I mentioned, the individual posted about the light switches that he had and installed. I will try to obscure the names as best as possible to prevent from the innocent being exposed. He posted two videos. The first video that I'm going to show was the original video that he posted, and after a number of people asked questions and let him know that we did not have enough information to be able to answer his problem, then he posted the second video, to which I will also show you. Let's start with the first video.
Both are 15A and 120 volts light switches. I carefully removed this one and obviously installed it the correct way. Ground is green. This one is green and it's black wire. And the other two on the hot side over here, but now the light switches aren't turning on. What do I do?
Alright, now here is the second video.
For those who want more information, black is ground, or green is ground, and these two wires are hot. That's how when I removed it, it was working just fine. That's where the ground was at. If I move it around like this, there is no crackling or nothing going on. Light's not coming on. It would be over there. It's not.
Now, as you saw in the second video, there's a little bit more detail about the wiring setup inside of that switch box. Having done electrical work in the past, as you see here, there's three sets of wires here, or there's three wires. There's black, there's red, and then there's white. The only time, at least in my electrical experience, that you would normally see a black, a red, and a white are in one, a smoke detector that is hardwired to 120 volt system. Two, a ceiling fan that has independent controls independent switches for the light and the fan. And three would be a three-way switch. What I am assuming here is that this is probably a three-way switch or a ceiling fan. And then so I started asking a series of questions, and the first question that kind of came to mind after watching the first video was kind of like, well, I'm not sure, and sometimes video can be a little bit grainy, so it's kind of difficult to see. And so I was like, hey, does the original switch have on and off written on it, like anywhere on the the tab? And his response was, no, it does not have on and off. That being said, it immediately told me that that was a three-way switch. If you go to your big box store and you look at the switches, the standard switch that can be controlled from a single location it has on and off on it, because when you flip a switch on, it automatically goes up to the top, and if you look on that switch, it will say on, and when you push it down and turn it off, it will say off. The thing with a three-way switch though is the on and off can vary depending upon what the other switch that is connected to that three-way light is how it's set. So if it's both of them are on in the up position, then the light is on, but you could also have on if both of the switches are in the down position. Thus, they don't put or print on and off on three-way switches. That being said, because it did not have on and off on the three-way switch, I knew, okay, this is a three-way switch. And what he has here, based on this second video, he does not have a three-way switch. He has a standard switch that is intended to be used from a single location. What I've advised him is that he needs to take these switches back to the store and get the same style of switches and get the three-way switch version instead of the single pole version. And trying to explain that to someone who is not as familiar with the various electrical components can be a little bit difficult. And so hopefully I explained it well enough that he's able to understand what he actually needs to go back and get. And hopefully I've explained it well enough that you understand the difference between a standard switch and a three-way switch. Some additional detail with this, and the reason why three-way switches do not work with a three-way circuit does not work with a standard switch is because a three-way switch is set up in a manner that regardless of what end of the switch that you're on, if you connect the circuit on one end or you flip the switch on one end, it allows that connection to flow through and pass through the other end to the light fixture. Likewise, when you go the other way, it allows it to go through the other way. And a three-way switch wiring setup is completely different than that of a standard switch. As I mentioned, three-way switches have 3 wires. Sometimes they have 4 wires going to the same switch. This particular setup, it does not appear that he has a ground in the box and thus did not wire it accordingly. But the way he wired this standard switch is slightly concerning because he put the black wire on the ground screw and the red wire and a white wire on the lines. And normally black is always hot. Like I've never seen where black has never been hot. Sometimes you'll see where white actually serves as a hot, but if it does serve as a hot, it's supposed to be taped, or just looking at it, you can figure that out, that it is hot if you pay attention to the entire circuit. But red and black have always been hot in every particular setup that I've seen. And because he has it wired the way he has it wired, I'm surprised it's not tripping, or tripping a breaker, but at the same time, it's obviously wired incorrectly. That being said, if you buy a switch electrical, make sure you know what you're doing. Take pictures of how things are wired up before you start disconnecting the wires. Take pictures of both sides of the switch, because a switch, a lot of times depending on the type of switch it is, sometimes there's one wire that comes on one side and the other wire comes on the other side. Sometimes both wires are on the same side of the switch. It just depends on the manufacturer and also whether it's a single pole switch or a three-way switch. So take pictures before you start disconnecting your wires. And then once you get your new switch to put in, reference your pictures that you took before you disconnected them and reconnect everything in the same manner. That way you won't end up in this same type of situation where you realize, okay, my switch is not working. Well, if the old switch had 4 screws on it and the new switch only has 3 screws on it, that should clearly tell you you have a problem. In addition, if you do just so happen to get the wrong type of switch, you can easily revert back to the previous switch and wire it up in the same manner that you had in your pictures. Now, I'm emphasizing this about a switch, but the same thing applies to other electrical components, such as a thermostat. Take a picture of it before you disconnect it, and that way if you have to put the old one back on, you know exactly how it's supposed to be wired up. So that is a bit of advice for you homeowners out there. Questions or comments, please drop those down below. Also, do videos each week. Please be sure to subscribe and give me a thumbs up. If you have any other additional questions, you can feel free to visit the website, rhtservices.net, and book a consultation. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.